Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
Name the dog in the animal.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints?
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my superfly friend who likes to wear wigs every other day, friend Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing super. I am super. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing just fine, Frank. I'm doing just fine.
Just fine?
Fine, just fine. One would actually say I'm doing swell.
Swell?
Yeah, swell.
There's just not a lot of people who are comfortable still saying that word.
Oh, well, it's always been pretty natural to me. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking a beer with a story. It's a short story. I was at Thanksgiving a few weeks back, and
story's over. Now it's too long.
That's it. That's the story. I was at Thanksgiving.
Right.
And that was it.
All right.
And I met somebody who does some brewing.
You met somebody. Ooh,
yes.
Are they nice? Sorry, I'll stop talking now. Continue.
And this person told me that they learned recently that if you go to Trader Joe's, that there is a beer called Farm Island Brewing. They make an organic session IPA. And he said,
I love that can.
It's a nice can. It's a nice can. If it looks...
That is a nice boulder.
It's a nice... Farm Island is... Have you ever heard of Peak Organic?
Yes. Oh, I think you've told us this story already.
I told you this off air.
Oh, I'm just getting all confused.
Yeah, that's fair. Peak Organic, based out of Portland, Maine, brews another beer called Farm Island, and they only sell it at Trader Joe's. And so it's the same. It is the same. My understanding is it is Peak's Organic IPA under a different name with a different label, but like similar colors and similar fonts and everything else, similar branding. But it is a great session IPA. It is not too hoppy for me, and I that matters. It is 4.8% alcohol, so not super, not too light for a session, but it's great. I really enjoy it. Is it a winter beer? Not necessarily, but I'm still enjoying it, and it's fun knowing that it's Peak Organic under a different name, and they sell Peak at my Trader Joe's anyway. But a 6-pack of this was $3 less, and I was just interested by the story, so I wanted to try it, and I can report it's good. It's good. I like it. So there you go. Farm Island Brewing Organic Session IPA.
I like that. That sounds great.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one day I'll try it.
You should. But what do you got?
I am drinking a Polar Seltzer Cranberry Lime because I never drink when I fly.
Bravo, my friend. Well done.
Thank you.
Which flavor was that again?
This is a cranberry lime.
Cranberry lime seltzer. Okay,
it's one of their classic ones.
It is.
But I have also drinking. Oh my god, I have also had a lime and a lemon lime today because I'm slightly addicted to seltzer. Because it's so good, Frank. There's nothing. There's nothing in it.
It's very in right now. Seltzer is very in. I drink a seltzer at least one a day now. They're very trendy, and I'm a big fan.
It hydrates you the same way water does, but you get all the bubbles.
It's a little more interesting than just
water. I agree. It's a little more interesting. I always just think of the John Mulaney joke where he's like, I'm just eating bread and drinking seltzer, filling up, and like, take a breath, John. Take a second. Anyway, so Frank, you and I have both had the distinct pleasure, separately, on 2 different days, of seeing the 40th anniversary release of Superman the movie.
Yes.
1978.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my goodness. Here it is. We've made it. 1970. Crazy. We saw it on the big screen. You saw it just recently. You saw it more recently than I did.
Yes. I saw it the last day they were doing it.
Okay.
And but that's because that's where the theater near me was playing it on that night. So
gotcha. And I saw it on the first day they were doing it.
All right,
actually. Yeah. So, have you seen it on the big screen before?
I haven't. So this was a big night for me. Have you seen it before?
No, not on the big screen.
Yeah.
This was a big night for me too. It got me thinking actually that the 30th release of Batman 1989 is actually this coming June.
Nice.
June 23rd. So I am really hoping, because it's Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers likes Fathom events. So I'm like, you better be putting this out.
They'll do
and it better not be while I'm on my honeymoon, because I will be mad.
Yeah.
I will be so mad. I will make my fiance go to the movies.
They'll
to
do
see
it.
This with me.
You should. They will. I'll predict. Not only will they do it, but they'll do it. They'll make a bigger deal out of it than they did for this.
Why? Because Batman.
Because Batman. Yeah, Batman makes them more money.
Yes, I think that is absolutely true.
There is a routine pattern of this, and I know it because I'm a bitter Superman fan. But like, Superman turns 75, and they're sort of like, "Yay, Superman!" Batman turns 75, and they're like, "Holy crap, Batman is 75, guys!" Superman turned 80 this year, and they were sort of like, "Isn't that nice? Superman is 80." I guarantee you, next year, with Batman turning 80 and Batman 89 turning 30, they will just be able to. I mean, just Batman turning 80 alone, they might re-release every Batman movie in theaters, like, plant your butt in the seat and watch all the movies in a 24-hour sitting or something. I
would do it.
I would probably go.
I would just go out to dinner during Batman and Robin and then come back.
I don't know. I kind of would want to watch that on the
I kind of watched it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I watched it again not too long ago. Just long story short, I'll even tell you the story. So I do the film club at school along with teaching a film class and whatever, all this stuff. And so once a month, I give them free. It's like free bad choice. Like, pick a bad movie.
Oh, sure.
Free choice.
Kind of
Yeah, right. And the first one they chose was Batman and Robin. That was their choice. They were like, we have to do it. It's the ultimate bad movie.
Before?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It's
many
before
of them.
most of them were born, or any of them were born.
That is correct. Yes, it is before they were born. Now, I've just made a lot of people feel. You just made a lot of people feel old who listen to this show.
We're old. What can I say?
Yep. But
I'm as old as Batman 89. A little older.
I am a little older than Batman.
I'm 6 months older than Batman 89.
I am more than that.
Yeah. Yes, you are.
Yes. So, but anyway, so that they chose it. So I just was literally subjected to watching it recently, and I kind of like it. It's not a good movie.
It's not a good movie, but it's like, is it kind of fun to watch? Yeah, it can be if you're in the right mindset.
Absolutely, and if you're in the right mindset, it's a hell of a time. And I don't care I love giant statues in the middle of a city that you can drive across that you're not supposed to, but you can.
It's true.
I just think that's cool. It's a great idea.
It is.
We're not here to talk about
this.
this.
No, we're here to talk about a movie that's good no matter what mindset you're in.
Okay, hot take: Batman '89 aged better than Superman.
I thought we were talking about Batman and Robin.
I know, but we were going back to. I'm going backwards in time now.
Okay.
Batman '89 aged better. Because I just finished Batman '89 yesterday. I just rewatched it, and then after seeing Superman the movie, and Superman the movie is great. I love it. Doesn't age well. It feels more like a '70s movie than '89 feels like an '80s movie.
I will definitely agree with you there, but that's also partly, I think, because the '70s were more. I mean, the '70s were a much more different time from today than the '80s were from today. Like more changed in that 10-year period, so I think that's it's a sign of the times. We are more far removed. This sounds obvious to say, but we are culturally more far removed from the 70s than we are from the 80s. Like the 80s are and also like the 80s are more, there's more 80s culture mixed into our contemporary pop culture than there is 70s. You could argue.
I think that's all true, and I certainly don't argue that point. That's all correct. I do, however, think that there is I think there's a timelessness to Batman 89 because of the way that it was filmed. Here are your sets. It's a fake city. Our costumes, is it the 50s? Is it the 30s? Is it the 80s? Who knows? It doesn't matter. But like Superman the movie is definitely in 1978.
A 70s movie. Yes. It definitely has that. It definitely has that problem. Okay. Let's take a step back here and let's talk about the movie a little bit. I'd like to talk about my experience with it a little bit, kind of like you did with Mask of the Phantasm a few weeks ago.
I would love it if you did that. Yes, because your experience was actually different than mine.
That's right. Yes,
learned over text. So I would like to know about your experience.
Okay, my experience with this movie in general, just to take a very, very brief aside. I saw this movie when I was a young kid, but not like a toddler. Not like I had seen many, many hours of the George Reeves series and the Fleischer cartoons and the Superman the Animated Series prior to seeing this movie. And when I did see it for the first time, I was actually a little underwhelmed at age 9 or 10 or whatever I was, because I had formed an affinity for the other versions of Superman so much that this was like a fresh new take, and it was like different for me. At the ripe old age of 9, I was like, not my Superman.
But that's about the age though where you start to really form opinions.
You solidify what is your, what's your version of a character.
Yeah. You're just about between like 9 to 11, maybe
right
12,
around there.
if you really
by the time
push
you're
it.
12, I think you have probably a pretty good grasp on what you like. From if you're a fan of one character and you've been like following that character for a long time.
That's right.
So I had sort of didn't dislike it. I just didn't totally accept it with open arms like most other people I know, honestly, who grew up with this and this was their Superman. I've always enjoyed it, always liked it, always loved it, but just among a mix of other Superman incarnations. But it's been a few years since I last saw it. Probably the last time I saw it was whenever I bought the Blu-ray. A few years back. I've owned this movie multiple times. I had it on VHS. I had it on the DVD. I had that 14-disc Steelbook edition, that had all the DVDs from like 2006. It came out right after Superman Returns came out. And then I bought the Blu-rays once I got a Blu-ray player. So I'd say the last time I watched it was probably 4 or 5 years ago, somewhere in that ballpark. It's been a few years, which is like for me an optimal amount of time. I've seen it many, many times. I can quote it. I can, beat for beat tell you what's going to happen next. Like I know it really, really well, but it's been a bit since I saw it. So I was really excited to get to see it on the big screen because I've never seen it on the big screen. And I'm going in fresh. When we were talking about Mask of the Phantasm, you pointed out that when you see a movie that you know really well, you see it in the theaters even, or just anytime you're watching it, but even if you're watching it in the theaters, the mind tends to wander a little bit. Right? Or instead of being in the movie, you're thinking about wow, how'd they do that special effect, or stuff like that. You aren't present necessarily.
That's right.
I found myself pretty present actually, and watching it maybe for the first time undistracted, because whenever I watch a movie at home, it's really hard for me to completely tune out everything else around me. Like I'll idly look at my phone, or I'll whatever. Even if I sit down with the attention of no phone, just gonna watch a movie right now. Still, I'll be like, oh, what do I know that actor from? Let me Google real quick, and I'll put my phone down again. That kind of stuff just happens. So I can't help but do that when I watch it at home. So I don't think I've ever really watched this movie just watching the movie.
As an adult.
As an adult, yeah, probably since the first time I watched it as a kid. I don't think I've sat down and been like, I'm just watching Superman the movie, nothing else, no other distractions, no other stimulation. So this was like huge in that way for me. But on top of all that, so in your showing of it, did they had the Ralph Garman intro before it, right? We talked about the history of the movie and everything.
The Ralph Garman intro talked about the history of the movie, its importance in cinema, and all of this kind of stuff. But I did not get the special prize that was promised to me that you did get.
Oh, it was promised you?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't tell us in the movie that it was coming. Like Ralph Garman didn't be like, and now tune into this. He didn't do any of that. But when I bought the tickets, they were like, hey, just so you know, this is also the thing that's going to show before the movie.
See, I had no idea that this was coming. What did you get before your showing?
That's it. I got the Ralph Garman thing.
Oh, okay. So I got the Ralph Garman thing, which was cool and delightful and nice. And then somebody from the theater came out. This was like I saw it in an old movie house in Beverly, Massachusetts.
Oh, that's where you went.
I went there, yeah. It's a 99-year-old movie theater.
That's where Reverend Hale is from.
Ah, look at that. Yeah.
That's my Crucible reference
there
for
you
this
go.
evening.
Yeah. So, I was at that movie theater, and it's this old theater. So they came out and did their spiel, like donate movie to the theater, whatever. But the guy said, we're going to have a behind-the-scenes special for you now. It's about 10 or 12 minutes, and then the movie will start. So I was like, oh, behind-the-scenes special. Okay, interesting. This must be, they're putting the movie out on a 4K HDR Blu-ray for the first time. So that's kind of why they did this, was promotion. And so I thought this must be a bonus feature from the Blu-ray that we're about to see. So, okay, cool. So behind-the-scenes special. So lights go back down. I'm ready for the behind-the-scenes special. And then all of a sudden, dun, 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 faster than a speeding bullet. All this stuff starts. I'm like, wait, this is... And it's the cartoon, the Max Fleischer cartoon of Superman starts. And I'm like, what is happening right now? I can't handle the excitement. Because after the movie, I texted my sister, who, like, we're just a couple years apart in age. We grew up, we're very close, and we shared a childhood in almost every way. And I said, I just saw Superman the movie, and they showed one of the Fleischer cartoons before it. And she goes, oh, so basically 3-year-old Frank's dream come true. And I was like, yes, yes, you get it. Exactly. They showed a Fleischer cartoon as the appetizer, and the entree was a full live action Superman movie. Like,
that's pretty amazing.
Ideal thing for me at age 3 or 30 for that matter. Mm-hmm. So, that was super exciting. It was the Mechanical Monsters, which I think is the second or third one in the series.
I love the Mechanical Monsters.
So good. It's probably my favorite one, and the one I've seen the most, except for maybe the first one.
I think the Mad Scientist is probably the one I've seen the most, but Mechanical Monsters is the one when I actually get to, in my comic book history, humanities class, the whole thing. I actually show an episode of the Fleischer cartoons, and that's the one that I show. It's Mechanical Monsters.
I think it's probably it's probably my favorite one. It's probably one of the better ones in terms of being like well-rounded and having a little bit of all of
has a little bit of everything.
Yeah, you got your saving Lois, you've got your, almost every power is used. It's nice. It's good for that. And it's only 10 minutes, 12 minutes. It's an easy thing to show. So
it's on YouTube. People can watch it whenever they want.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's on YouTube. They put out a DVD of the Fleischer cartoons a few years ago that looked beautiful, but I really hope they put them out on Blu-ray soon. There is a Blu-ray you can buy on Amazon. Don't buy it. It's not good. It's low quality. It's crappy. Don't buy it.
Really?
Yeah, it's just like some knockoff digital transfer that someone did and burned it onto a Blu-ray, but it's not like remastered and it's not taken from the original. Yeah, no. Wait until there's like taken from the negatives, and officially transferred the right way.
Gotcha.
But it's like a bootleg, so wait for the real thing. I'm sure they'll do it eventually, or maybe it'll be a bonus feature on some of the other. That's the thing. Like when they put out those Blu-ray or the 14 disc. Set they had put on the Fleischer cartoons interspersed on a few of the discs. Hopefully they'll do that again soon. Anyway, I digress. That was amazing. That was beautiful. It made me really, really happy. Once the movie started, I was totally sucked into this movie like I haven't been probably since age 9. I loved this presentation of the movie. I think because I watched it undistracted, I appreciated it more. I'm not going to say I caught things I'd never seen before, but I pieced together how some things fit together, better than before, and because it had been 4 or 5 years, I was a little sketchy on some of the details of like how did we get from this to this, and like what's with the Grand Central thing, and all this kind of stuff. I kind of got there. I tracked better with the movie than I have before because I kind of went in with sort of a fresh slate, but still remembering a lot of it. So I don't know if that makes sense, but if when you have this movie in a while,
yes,
And it's sort
Yes.
of like you're sketchy on the details, but then you're reminded, and you kind of leave with more of an appreciation than you had before.
Yes.
Yeah, that was my experience. I really, really had fun. That's it. I had fun watching it for the first time in a while because it'd been 5 years. So it was fantastic experience. So much fun to see it. It looks beautiful. The new presentation of it is beautiful. I already own it on Blu-ray, but I'm kind of tempted to buy the 4K because I did just get a 4K TV, so I'm kind of like maybe. Yeah. It's not a perfect film. There's a handful of things that I could nitpick, but for the movie that it is and for the classic that it is, I had a lot of fun watching it in this setting. So it reinforced for me that it is good to see movies that you know and love really well. It is fun to go watch them on the big screen, if for no other reason than for me. I won't get as distracted, and I'll actually watch the movie more than I would if I was watching it at home. What was your experience like?
Fairly similar, though we had different paths of getting there. I don't remember the first time that I watched Superman the movie. It was definitely a kid. It was definitely on VHS. I still have it. I want to say it was when they re-released it kind of the first time,
okay.
and we were like, oh, hey, Superman, we should watch it. And then it was just kind of like, we watched that one and Superman 2, and I think I think Superman 3 and 4 were actually the first Christopher Reeve Superman movies that I saw. Oh, you know what it was? I think they were selling them cheap on VHS, and my brother got 1 and 2, and I got 3 and 4 because I was the second child, so obviously I get the second 2 movies, and so not as good. But I watched Quest for Peace a lot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, when you're a kid, you don't get that Lenny Luthor is not a thing.
Yeah.
And should never be a thing.
I got that,
and he's fighting a guy on the moon, and it's fine, It's just fine. And Superman 3 scared the crap out of me when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah. And that's scary as a kid, actually. Yeah.
The end. Ooh,
yeah.
Heebie-jeebies.
Superman 4, I rewatched a few months ago, like as a pure hate watch. I was like, I'm just going to watch this just for laughs. And actually, I listened to Steve and Derek over at Starkville's House of L did a commentary on it years ago, and I dug up that old commentary that I still had in my iTunes and listened to it while I watched the movie, and it made it more fun.
That's good. So going back to my experience,
please.
So this year, long story short, I'm going to go back to my comic class because it really all ties in. I swear, I promise. I'm just not talking about it. New schedule at work this year, so I am super ahead of where I was in my curriculum from last year, as in like I have 6 weeks of time like extra, and I've covered all the stuff I usually cover. I just have a very efficient class this year, plus with a new schedule I'm seeing them every day as opposed to 3 to 4, maybe 5 times a week, and so it just, you get more done very quickly. And this class is very invested in how Hollywood works, how movies are made, because the first half of the class is comic book humanities class, the graphic novel. The second half is a cinema studies class. How films are made, how do they work, let's break down these films for all of its things, blah 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 blah. And so I'm kind of bridging the gap now between so it's comic book cinema, the history of comic book cinema, but also slightly how the Hollywood machine works and everything like that. Let's tear apart these films and blah blah blah. So I showed Superman the movie a week before I saw it in theaters.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I had just sat in this class with them breaking down Superman the movie and how it works, and talking to them about things like, filmed at the same time, and Donner leaving before really the end of the whole filming process and how that affected the end of the film. Talking about how it was the most expensive movie made to date at that point, a budget of $55 million in 1977 when they filmed it, comes to today to over $218 million. Like, and that's pretty par for the course for an action movie today.
An
like
Avengers movie will have that kind of a budget, if
not more, at this point. It's just like an insane amount. And then talking about how critically financial, how successful it was, earning over today's standards $1 billion. Still only the second highest grossing film of that year, earning over $1 billion.
How crazy is that?
I know. Do you know what the first one was?
Of that year?
Yeah.
I see. I don't know what else came out that year. I should remember from your Academy Rewind episode what 1978.
It's a musical. It's a
God.
musical, and it was not on Academy Rewind.
Tell
it was
me.
not.
I'm not going to get
Grease.
it. Oh, sure. Yeah,
Grease.
yeah,
Grease
sure.
was the most watched movie that year, earning
Well.
over $1.2 billion.
That was a stacked year, man.
Stacked.
Damn.
Crazy. I hate Grease too. Unpopular opinion.
Oh,
like
I don't
the
really
music.
care for
I hate
Grease
the
that
story.
much. Yeah, that's fine.
And then, of course, the movie was nominated. It was nominated for Best Editing, Best Music, Best Sound Mixing, and then it won its own little special Academy, it won its own little special Academy Award, and all that stuff. And then talking about life influencing art, and then art influencing life, and, movies influencing, like blah, 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 all this different stuff. So I just watched it from a very technical eye with them, talking, like how this theme ties to this thing, and, like themes and this and character motivations and blah, 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 all those things that you do all of those things you would do in a film class, breaking it down.
Sure.
And then here I am going with like my, my cup of coffee because I'm an adult to the movie theater. And sitting down, and just like you, it all washed over me. Completely lost all of it. I just got completely absorbed into the movie from start to finish. And having just watched it, my mind should have been wandering all over the place.
I would think, yeah.
It should have been everywhere. I should have been like, oh, this is the bit where this thing happens. Or I just watched this. Or like, oh, this was a flub. Or maybe this connects to this thing. Blah, blah, blah. Nope. All of it gone. Blank slate up there. Like I'd never seen the film before, and I'm like waiting for, like, Otis, next time you bring me the robe, make sure I'm out of the pool first, and I'm just all of it. I was just, and I couldn't tear myself away from it the way that I would be able to say, like, stop a film otherwise and just and walk away. And I know is part of the big screen experience, because I love going to movies in the movie theater. It's easily one of my favorite things to do all time, going to the movies, especially when there aren't people at the movies.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, when it's quiet. Oh, yeah, I was this is a little bit sad, but my theater, I was like one of maybe 20 people.
Oh, that was about the same for mine.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Fathom events that generally don't get huge crowds.
Yeah.
They get enough to keep doing them, because it costs them almost nothing to put the movie into the theater.
I suppose that's true.
Not really doing anything except giving a digital file to the theater.
Right.
So
it's just a marketing budget, really, is all you got to pay for.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't cost a lot. There was a guy sitting behind me at mine, though, that definitely loved the movie too much.
Oh,
and so
I had one of those in my theater too. Actually,
every line, just every one. Set them all the way through.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I also had the hipster couple sitting directly behind me, who were like laughing at the cheesy parts, and by the cheesy parts, I mean like the earnest parts. Like,
sure, I like Pink very much, Lois.
Things like that, or like, oh, what are you here for? Well, I'm here to fight for truth, justice, and the American way. And they're just like, he just said that out loud. And I'm like, shut up. Shut up. This is sacred to some of us.
Yeah.
They were just there to laugh at it.
He does fight for truth and justice, and maybe the American way isn't so great right now, but it was in 1978. Actually, it pretty much wasn't in 1978 either. Maybe we really need to evaluate what we are as a political system. The whole point is that we can be better. That's right.
That's the whole point. Anyway, that's my take on that. But yeah, there's one in every crowd, right? There's the person who's too enthusiastic. I was just glad that if you're not that, if you look around and you don't know who that person is, you're that person.
Yep. If you're the only one clapping and the whole theater's silent, shut up.
Stop. Yeah. So I was not that guy. The guy was like throw in front of me. Yeah. Yeah. That's, when you bought your ticket to see this, did you realize that the timing was going to work out to where you would have just seen it at work?
No, I wasn't planning on it. I had bought the tickets months ago, I think, and I wasn't planning on showing Superman the film. I usually talk about its importance to the industry and blah blah blah, but I have the time, so I might as well start teaching them how to analyze a movie with something that they might be slightly more invested in.
The reason I ask is because I'm thinking, like, if the shoe were on the other foot, if it was me and it was Batman 89 and I had just watched it, even if it was not the ideal situation to watch it, and if I had just seen it even in pieces, I don't think I would go. I don't think I'd still go.
Oh,
I don't
really?
think I'd be like, I think for me, I'd be like, why am I going to spend money to go see it when I just watched it last week? Like, no, that's fine.
But I mean, like, that argument can be made, like, you could just turn it on any time, so why'd you spend money anyway?
Yeah, but it's different if I just watched it. Like, if I've just seen it, I'm not going to then go out and pay to see it again.
That's true. Though watching a film with students, in, like, you know, it's a different viewing.
It's not like
different...
watching it for fun. I get it. But
no,
I still think
it can be, but...
It can be, yeah. But it's still, you're in a work context. So I get how it's not like...
Right, because at the end of it, there's going to be a writing assignment, and you're going to have to read those writing assignments, and you're going to have, you know, so it's a slightly different take on...
Yeah. I just don't think if unless it was one of my very favorite films, then I'd be like, well, I could watch this a million times. But
and Superman the movie doesn't count amongst one of your favorite films of all time. I knew this about you already.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
Yeah.
And people may say that makes me a bad Superman fan or whatever, but I don't really subscribe to that. And
I don't think so, because it's not. I mean, I love Christopher Reeve's take on the character, but it's not
I do.
It's not the definitive take of the character for me.
No, it's not. It's not for me. No, sorry. Don't say it's not for me. It's not my definitive take on the character either. I still cherish it. It's still one of the all-time, great superhero films. People tend to universally agree it's the beginning of the modern superhero film.
Well, that's Kevin Feige and his creative team watch it allegedly still before every movie that they do, because this is the model of film, model of superhero movie they decide. Because there's basically two models of hero films. There's Superman the movie, and there's Batman 1989.
Yep,
those are your two models of films, and you either have the straight from start to finish. Here's the origin story. We have an earnest tone. It's set in the realish world, as real as we can get. It's earnest, but it's also tongue in cheek. Wink and a nod. We're not taking ourselves too seriously. How you guys doing? See you later. That's Superman the movie.
Right.
Batman 1989 is a completely different superhero film. It's not interested in the origin story the same way. It's not. It's almost in media res. It's boom. He's already a hero. And now you watch the movie, and guess what? We'll remind you 3/4 of the way through what the hero's origin is, in case you're invested enough. We'll let you know.
Sure.
There's still an earnestness to it, but there's also kind of a twisted comedy to it, which is different than tongue in cheek.
Right.
There's a dark sense. There's a dark comedy sensibility, as opposed to just an earnest story.
Sure.
And those are really the two models that we're still kind of following today. The Dark Knight is probably the thing that broke those models, and we now have a third. We have a third one at play. But we're working on we're working on the very same formulas we have been for years and years and years. And Superman the movie, more than Batman 89, as far as superhero movies goes, I think is more influential, because the origin story, it's a very straightforward origin story. It's easy to follow.
Yes.
Whereas Batman's remodeled how tentpole blockbusters are done.
That's a really good way of. That's a good observation. Yep.
I think Batman is more important to the film industry as a film, and how films are marketed and produced, and for better or for worse. But Superman the movie is more influential as a film for filmmaking.
Yep.
Those are two very different things. It's crazy. It's almost like saying like pre-production versus getting the movie made. Those are two different things. Finding the money and finding the people to actually make the movie is the pre-production. Those are two. And so Superman and Batman are kind of like that. You can't make. I mean, Tom Mankiewicz, who was one of the writers on Superman the movie, was commissioned to make a Batman movie right after Superman, and real early on he was like, you can't make a Batman movie the way that you make a Superman movie. They're completely different characters. The formulas don't work the same way.
He was really savvy like that. I think he understood a lot of what makes the Superman character tick. Famously, so Mario Puzo did the first version of the screenplay.
400-page opus.
Yeah. He did a 400-page screenplay. And
most screenplays are 120 pages.
At most.
A page per minute.
Yep.
That's generally that's the general rule of thumb.
400 pages. I mean, and if you've read The Godfather, 400 pages makes sense for Mario Puzo. But
yes,
he apparently was not aware or really familiar with Superman when they approached him. And they gave him the backstory, and he read up on Superman. And you know what his comment was? Oh, wow, this is a great tragedy.
Wow.
Mario Puzo's assessment of Superman was, oh, wow, this is going to be a great tragedy.
Oh, that does not bode well. And then he traveled in time and made Man of Steel.
Yeah, right? It's like, is that David Goyer talking? So he wrote the script. They were like, oh, this is great. We're definitely not going to use most of this. Thanks. We'll put your name in the credits because it's a good name to have in the credits. But, ooh, can't really use this. So they had it rewritten. And then they had it rewritten again. And it's that like third or fourth version is what we see. And Tom Mankiewicz is the one that punched it up and kind of script doctored it at the end. And I think he gets like a creative consultant credit in the film. Mm-hmm. It was his idea to do the sort of in Krypton, it's all Shakespearean, and then in Smallville, it's all Americana, and then once we get to Metropolis, that's when the jokes start going, and it gets more like the rhythm. We fall into a rhythm once we hit Metropolis. That was one of his contributions, and a lot of the honestly, most of the jokes are his contributions. Most of the levity in the movie are his contributions.
It's a lot of good levity, but you're right. The levity doesn't show up until Clark is fully formed.
Nothing really funny happens until you get to Metropolis. It's pretty heavy
hour?
for the first hour. Yeah,
first hour of
heavy.
the film. Mm-hmm.
I will say, I've seen the director's cut quite a bit now, since it was released on DVD and Blu-ray. So I get a little confused about what's in the director's cut and what's in the theatrical cut at this point. But the Destruction of Krypton sequence was longer than I remembered. In particular. And then the Can You Read My Mind sequence, I always, even when I was 9, I cringed at that.
I cringe. It's
not great. It's not great. I don't love it. I'm sorry. I just don't love that Can You Read My Mind. It just, the flight sequence is 2 or 3 times longer than it needs to be. And her reciting the poem thing does not need to happen.
It's the reciting of the poem. Because the flight sequence is great to me. But as soon as they start to when she falls, right?
Yeah.
That's the bit where I was like, nah, and you overstepped a little bit.
The whole part where like them flying around the Statue of Liberty, fine, but once it gets to them just smiling at each other and giggling at each other and holding hands, and then their hands slipping further and further apart until where they're only holding by their fingers, and she somehow doesn't notice they're holding by their, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. It's too long. I don't need to see all that, and I definitely don't need Margot Kidder reading the poem over John Williams' music. I just don't need that,
because I think it was supposed to be somebody singing it, or she was supposed to sing it or something like that, and they were ran out of time, or it didn't really work out.
They released a pop song version of it as well,
that's right.
as a single. Mm-hmm. But it didn't really go anywhere. But yeah, I think she couldn't sing, and so they just had to read it instead, recite it, and it's I don't like it. That's too cheesy, too 70s for my taste, and that's always been my position, and I don't see that changing.
Agreed. What do you think about Clark catfishing her right after that scene?
When he comes out and he's all,
well, see, do you know we had a date? No, you didn't.
That's classic. No. That's classic Superman and Lois.
He tricks her. He literally tricks her.
He does. Honestly, you're right. You're right. I didn't really think of it that way, but you're absolutely right. And that's not great, actually. But the reason I didn't really think of it was because, and this is one thing where I was sort of out of the movie, but in a good way, was just admiring how it's one fluid shot where he flies away. And they without any cuts, they just follow Lois from the balcony into the apartment, and 15 seconds later, there's Christopher Reeve fully dressed again without any cuts. You saw him fly away, and then there he is dressed as Clark. pretty masterfully done. And you might not even notice it is without any cuts, and you might not appreciate that until someone points it out to you. But once you see it, you're like, oh, wow, that's
so good.
That was
so
really,
good.
That's some movie magic right there.
Mm-hmm.
Classic movie magic.
It's going off the thing that I had previously when I was watching with the class. They didn't really think of it. They didn't think of the catfishing thing. But when Miss Tessmacher kisses Superman when he's in the pool, they're like, "Whoa, what is she doing?" Like,
I know, right?
She didn't ask for permission. They were like, real. It was hilarious.
That is
like,
funny.
They're like, that doesn't fly. Can't do that. That's no good. And I was like, yeah, it doesn't fly because he's kryptonite right now. It's funny. He can't fly.
He can't. Not even if he wanted to.
I think the movie wraps up too cleanly. That is my it's like the spinning the earth is hilarious in its own way and blah blah
it's
blah.
Nonsense, and it actually kind of bothers me. But
it doesn't make sense. So he goes back in time, but like, what does he fix? Does he just get to the part? It doesn't work.
So if time went back, then what happened to Hackensack? Don't you have to save Hackensack again? I don't.
Right?
Anyway.
It doesn't matter. I don't think. But that's the thing. Like, as soon as it gets to that moment, you can't think too hard about the rest of the film. It just all crumbles, and then he literally like a comic serial. He like drops off Lex Luthor at prison, and he's like, "Okay, bye."
You can't just bring someone to prison and be like, "Here, go to jail." Like, that's not how that works either. But it's fine.
The only thing
but
that
that's
I'm
classic comic book. So I
It's true.
even like George Reeves would have done that. So like I let it go because it's
the only thing that I think actually works for that is because Lex Luthor is already a known criminal because the police are looking for him. Right, that guy gets pushed out into the tracks, because he's looking for Otis. So Lex Luthor is already a wanted man. So if he is dropped off at prison, they're like, "Oh, hey, we were actually looking for you. We found you."
He still has to go through the court system.
I know. I know they'll send him
Yeah,
to the break. Yeah,
fine.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah. I do. Yeah, he's going to prison eventually. He literally calls himself the greatest criminal mind of our time in a prison jail yard. So kind of admitting to the crime right there.
It is. But anyway, man, do I love this movie though.
It's so much fun though. It's so much fun.
I like
it. I like it, but it's fun.
But yeah, I like it more than Superman 2. I know that's also unpopular for some people. I think this is a better made film.
I think I think I agree with you. Yeah.
Superman 2 is also super influential the hero giving up their life as a hero for the person they love kind of thing, or to get their life back under. That's all Superman 2. Spider-Man 2 is a absolute parallel. Spider-Man 1 and 2 is basically just Superman 1 and 2. It's just with Spider-Man.
Very much cut from the same cloth.
They follow the formulas pretty closely, and then it all derails in 3 for both of them. So there you go.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much going on in both.
Too much going on.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And that's part of, I think, what Sam Raimi did so well was it was smart to follow a formula that works. And I think that a lot of Superman formulas and stories apply to Spider-Man, and that's kind of why Spider-Man is my favorite on the Marvel side.
But I think that's why Marvel is so successful. And I mean, not that it's following the formula for Superman every time. It's certainly not. But every origin story that you watch, from Marvel, it's the same. It's basically the same starting point from there to there to there to there.
They have similar beats.
It's across the board. I mean, even Wonder Woman is Superman the movie, right?
Wonder Woman the movie, you mean?
Wonder Woman the movie is Superman the movie. Wonder Woman the movie is Captain America the movie is Superman the movie.
Yes.
With twists here and there, but I mean Wonder Woman goes out of its way to homage the alley scene.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
To which Clark saves Lois from by catching the bullet. It's exactly what Diana does, except that she deflects him with some bracelets, and I love it. It's great.
Love it.
It works so well. All right, I think we should wrap this up though, Frank.
I agree.
Great. So you can find us on Beer with Geeks at Gmail and Twitter and Facebook and beerwithgeeks.com and thoughtbubble.audio.com. Rate and review us on iTunes and all the places that podcasts can be found. You can give us some money, even 25 cents a week, so cheap, over on patreon.com. Truly appreciate all that you do for us. And I'm talking to you now, Frank. Truly appreciate that all that you do for us at Thought Bubble Audio. So many shows, such a good time. Do you have anything to add?
Check out Loud Women, our newest podcast at Thought Bubble Audio. Loudwomenpod.com. It's all about the new Hulu series Shrill. And it's hosted by two very smart and funny women, one of whom I am married to.
And her name is Tim. No, just
Nope.
kidding. Nope. All right. Well, you'll be talking to my divorce lawyer. No. Anyway, that's it for now. Until next time, cheers.